Good bread starts with good flour. The most important thing is to use an unbleached bread flour. That's flour with at least 12% protein content as marked on the package. If you don't have bread flour, add 2 tablespoons of vital wheat gluten per 120 grams or per cup of all-purpose flour. Any other kind of flour may look the same, but won't taste or chew the same. The best flour for this type of bread is made from a hard winter wheat, unlike pizza or biscuit flour. Always add flour by weight so you don't put in too little or too much depending on how densely a measuring cup is packed. Okay, enough with the flour. Next, add the white sugar. Then add malt. Diastatic malt powder conditions the dough and encourages the yeast to grow, as well as adding a subtle flavor. So now we'll go ahead and add rapid rise yeast right to the mixture. Next, we'll add salt and give the dry mixture a stir so the salt and yeast won't be in contact with each other when the liquid is added, or the salt will kill the yeast. Then we'll begin adding the liquid with a tasteless pure vegetable oil. Next, the eggs get added. Anytime we're adding an egg to a recipe, we want to crack it against a flat surface or another egg so we don't accidentally cause any shell fragments to be pushed into the egg, which can happen if we break them against an edge. Then break the egg into a glass dish and examine it for shell fragments, blood spots, or impurities before adding it to the mixture. Now we'll add warm water between 80 and 105 degrees Fahrenheit. The eggs should also be room temperature. You can put them in warm water for about 10 minutes before cracking them if they're cold. The yeast may not start activating if the mixture is too cool. Then we'll mix it up, just enough so there's no dry flour at the bottom of the bowl when we put it onto the mixer. Alternatively, you can dump it onto a floured board and hand knead it for 5 minutes. If you're not hand kneading it, put it in the mixer on a medium speed for 2 minutes to blend all the ingredients together. Then stop the mixer and let the dough rest for 10 minutes while the yeast activates. After the 10 minutes rest is over, turn the mixer back on and knead for an additional 12 minutes. The dough should be tacky but not stick to the sides of the bowl or a spatula. It should stretch like bubblegum easily. This is kind of a wet dough when it's done because it has a soft crust. Now spray or oil a bowl that's big enough to hold double the amount of dough and put it aside so it's ready. Then lightly flour your work surface and scrape the dough out of the mixing bowl onto it. The dough is tacky and light, so handle it delicately as you coat it with a little flour and make it into a ball. Then you'll place it into the oiled bowl and put it in a warm location to rise for an hour or until it's doubled in size. You can cover the ball with a damp towel or plastic wrap or rub a little oil on the top surface of the dough so the surface doesn't dry out. The easiest thing to do is to check out my next video, which will be how to make your own professional proofing box without tools for almost free. Great for rising dough no matter what climate you're in. While the dough is rising, spray or oil the baking pan. This is called a Pullman loaf pan, and it's deeper than a regular loaf pan. It has holes on the bottom because it comes with a lid, enabling you to make tall square loaves for Texas toast, French toast, or perfectly square sandwich slices. Without the lid, it makes nice tall sandwich slices. Once the dough is doubled in size, and sticking your finger in leaves an imprint, it's ready to be shaped. Pat it and stretch it into a rough rectangle. Then fold it over in thirds like an envelope. Fold the ends over and repeat once more. Finally, press it into a loaf shape. Gently roll it a few times to make sure the surface is nice and smooth, and then put it into the loaf pan. Place the loaf pan in a warm place for 45 minutes or until it rises just to the top of the pan. Then it's ready to bake. When it's done baking, put it on a rack and let it cool in the loaf pan. But as soon as it comes out, while it's still very hot, rub a light coat of butter or margarine on the top crust. The margarine will be absorbed while the loaf cools in the pan and makes the top crust extra soft and tender. After the loaf is cooled enough to touch, you can flip the pan over and the bread should come right out.